Hey, what's up? Tony here. I'm going to give you the rundown on this whole bike, this 2018 FatBob. At the end of this video, we're going to start it up and let you guys hear this motor. But before we get to that, I'm going to talk about everything we got going on this RaceBob. I've been out with AHRMA, CVMA, and we're getting ready to hit the Moto Corsa Classica in 2019 at Willow Springs. And I'm happy to share with you guys what we've been doing to this thing to get it ready to go out and race sport bikes. So I'm going to start off talking about ground clearance. For me, that's the most important. If I can't hold the speed through the corners, I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do on the racetrack. So to start it off, we got the front suspension. Now this is kind of a stock Harley front end. It's the stock triple trees from the FatBob. We've got GP suspension cartridge kit on the inside. Love them. I love the suspension. They know what they're talking about there, and I'm happy with the suspension. Now, what's not stock is obviously the cartridge kit and the slider tubes. These are off of a 2019 FXDR. I went to the dealership, I noticed that the new bikes, their front ends were longer. I pieced this together like I would piece together a 2-over, front end on a Dyna. So that gave us the ground clearance in the front. Super happy with it. I haven't tested it out yet, but in a few days I'm going out to check these things out. So with that, on the rear side of the bike, we've got the Russ Warnemont Designs shock. RWD, the RS1 shock. This thing is badass. Russ came out to the track. He did test and tune with us, and I'm really happy with the way the suspension works. I put it through a lot. I like to ride the curbs. I like to use all of the racetrack, and this thing, it performs very well. I wouldn't be able to get the ground clearance unless I had this Speed Merchant swing arm though, because the stock swing arm, it can only go so low, or so high, I should say. Now, this thing is not only badass looking, but it works. It's sturdy. It's 4 pounds lighter. I love it. I couldn't be happier with this swing arm. Speed Merchant does excellent work. They always do badass shit, and that's why we run them on our bikes. And to finish off the ground clearance portion of this video, we're going to talk about these mid controls that are on here now. The stock mid controls from Harley on this bike, they are in the way when you're trying to lean as far as you can. So we removed those, and right now we're trying out the SoCal mids. These bring the mid control back about 2.5 inches, I think, from the stock mid control setup. It's also, right now we're running the Moto Co shred pegs with the SoCal mids, and that makes it a little bit more aggressive. The SoCal mids are basically set up like a stock mid control on a Dyna. So I'm going to give these this new product a test run and see how they handle out on the track, and then we're going to give the Speed Merchant mids a try, and I'm interested to see how the Speed Merchant ones are, because they are a little bit more aggressive than these ones are, and I feel like they're going to be pretty badass for the track. So we're going to do a full review on both mid control setups, and stay tuned for that video too. And next we're going to talk about the heart of this beast. Originally this bike comes with a 114, which, it had 90 horsepower, 110 foot-pounds of torque, and that's bone stock from the dealership with an air cleaner. which I was happy with. It was pretty quick, but obviously we need a little bit more. So what we did while this bike was down, we did a 128 kit from S&S. 11-to-1 compression, it's got the 550 cams, oil pump, cam plate, valve springs, and the pistons and cylinders. Really stoked on how this thing sounds. I can't wait to start it up for you guys at the end of this video. But dude, solid parts, solid motor, and right now we're breaking it in with the stock throttle body and an R-Lin-S air cleaner. Like it's not ideal for maximum horsepower and the power that we want, but the budget is tight, so we do what we can. So but the bike is running really well, and I can't wait to get out there. Now with all that horsepower, got rid of the belt, and I put this chain and sprocket setup on there. Sprockets from Lindell, and it's actually off of a V-rod, and I'll get to it later in the video on why it's a V-rod sprocket, but we made these work on the rims that we have. And you know, with that being said, having all this horsepower, you got to have stopping power. I believe this is off of a V-rod, this setup, but we made it work, and we're running Tokikos. And on the front, we're running the 13-inch Lindells crown cut. Okay, and those are on Marchesini rims. Those rims are actually off of a Ducati, and the weight difference is uncomparable. Now with going and stopping, dead weight is an issue. So getting rid of that much weight and adding these 13-inch rotors with the radial mount Tokikos, and to be able to mount those, we have the Speed Merchant brackets, another great product, and that makes it possible for us to run these 13-inch rotors. And the wheels I went with are actually Marchesini's. They're off of a Ducati. RS Fabrication helped us get these rims on this 2018 FatBob. We made some spacer adapters that run the brakes. Also the same thing, we did some custom axles and spacers, and also made the rear cush drive setup for the Ducati work with our whole chain drive setup. So really happy with the setup. You can tell the difference when all that weight's gone, and pretty stoked on it. So now we're going to talk about the handlebars. Handlebars are from Hardcase Performance. I really like the setup. They offer a few different varieties. These are the 4-inch, and I went a little bit lower with these than I did on the Dyna, because I felt like that might be better for the RaceTrack, and I'm still figuring that out now. But it's a great product. These run the 1 1/8" bars, which are like the Moto style bars, and this is the stock speedometer, tachometer for the FatBob that used to be on the tank, but is now sitting on the handlebars. Now, one of the most important things is like where I'm sitting. This Saddleman seat is awesome. They custom made it to fit this bike, and super thin. Now for the good stuff, dude.